Welcome everybody, Don Giannetti here from lighting-essentials.com and project52prosystem.com. This is another in my continuing series of what makes this photo great. And today we're going to be looking at the work of a photographer that has stirred controversy from the almost nearly the beginning of her career. The photographer is Sally Mann. She's a Southern American photographer. She works mostly in the South. She's been a commercial photographer at early in her career, and then made the switch over to what I would call fine art or art photography. She's shown in pretty much every major gallery. And the first time I saw her work was a book called At 12, Portraits of Young Women. It was about 1990, late 80s, something like that. And it was just remarkable to me. The photographic quality of her work was just astounding. Now, Sally does portraiture with large format cameras, 8x10, I think some 4x5 in there, but mostly 8x10 cameras. So when you look at her work, you see this amazing fluidity of their subject. The subject can, move and be involved in the frame, doing things, and yet with an 8x10 camera, the focus is so difficult. Figuring an 8x10 camera is using a 350 millimeter lens, which would be kind of like a 60 millimeter on a 35 millimeter camera. So your normal lens on the 8x10 is already shallow depth of field, even at f8, f11. So the quality of the image with that out of focus background and that sharp focus of the subject really just blew me away. It was a controversial, I think, for a lot of reasons. They're portraits that are of regular people, and some of them are I guess just a little disturbing. Maybe they're just a little raw. Her second book, Immediate Family, well, that's when the controversy really started, because she photographed her daughters and her sisters, etc., in the nude, and that was, attacked from both the Christian right and the left feminists. Everybody went after Sally Mann on this, but thank goodness she was able to prevail because the work is so important. So let's take a look at a little bit of Sally Mann's incredible catalog of photography. If you're not familiar with Sally Mann, you must be familiar. She's one of the most influential, most important photographers around today. And let's get started. Let's start with some images of the landscape in the South. We'll get to the portraits pretty quickly. All right, this shot. Now, what makes this shot great? Oh God, there's so many things. I love the leading lines here, the lines that go right up into here, where the subject is. Notice that she put the subject right in the middle of the very bright area reflection in the lake. They're not up here in the shadow. They're right down here. And remember, this is a big camera. It's not bang, bang, bang. It's like take a picture, and it's a good, 45 seconds before you can take another picture. You got to pull the dark slide, push the dark slide back in, pull the frame, pull it out, the film holder, flip it over, stick it in, pull the dark slide out, cock the shutter. It's a slow process. And these images are so incredibly vivid. Using a lens that's too wide on the view camera, so we get this vignette here, which is kind of cool in its own way. We have the same sort of vignette happening up here. You can see what the 8x10 camera does, focusing on the tree, and everything else goes out of focus. There may be a little bit of a play with the tilt and shift lens on this. I don't know. I can't tell how she did it, but a very long lens like a 400 millimeter is just a 400 millimeter is kind of like a 75 or something on your 35. But look at the depth of field. And it creates a very interesting and I think a very emotionally different image than the standard 35 millimeter or standard even medium format camera. This one, I just love this one. Oh God, look at this. Look at the light, just amazing. And notice the foreground's out of focus. The focus happens right about out here. This tree, this moss-covered tree, the darkness, everything. You can see the relationship to this one. Dark in the foreground, bright in the back. Dark in the foreground, bright in the back. It's just an incredible photograph. I would give anything to be able to afford a Sally Mann for my walls. But let's get into some of the portraits. These are portraits made at sort of like social gatherings. I mean, these aren't portraits that she would line people up for and, choose wardrobe and stuff. These are portraits of real people doing real things. And isn't this amazing? We have this gentleman's head turned this way, away from the picture. We have the young lady turned back over her shoulder at Sally, aware of her. The other people here don't even seem to be aware of her. I love the lawn furniture everywhere. It's kind of kitschy. It's kind of fun. But the picture just pulls you in, doesn't it? Look at her eyes. Look at her expression. And that's just snap. That's it. That's not a motor drive. Like, I see people motor driving everywhere now because they can instead of because they should. But what a stunning portrait. Same with this little girl showing off the dress. It becomes kind of an interesting moment in time. What's she doing? What's she doing? What's the grandfather or their father doing? And then the little girl's just posing there for Sally. Look at the beautiful background. Just a super interesting photograph. We have the fence running through it this way. We have this sort of dark line of the shadow over here where this gentleman is. So his white shirt pops out of that dark background. This person in the dark hoodie here, they pop out very well, from the bright background. But the little girl being backlit from the sun. You can see the backlighting on this little one's hair here, right here. She's being backlit from the sun, and it's just astounding. Just amazing. What a great composition. Again, looks like a local burning off the grass. And we got the gentleman standing right in the middle of it, and Sally's working with a big camera here. Get ready for the shot and then be ready to snap that shutter because you don't get a second chance. In most cases, you don't get a second chance for what you're looking at there. That's it. By the time you've got the film holder done, he's all the way down here. Now, did she pose him? Tell him to stand there? Could have. Certainly could have. Hey, could you stay there and do it a couple more times for me to get a couple more frames? But usually that's not how it worked. And I think the fact that she's using a big camera, and while I don't think that the camera makes the photograph, it's the photographer who does it. There is a very distinct difference between a very large format camera like an 8x10 or an 11x14 and the traditional 35 millimeter frame. It's just different. Not better, not worse, different. Things can be different. One of her most famous photographs, that's a candy cigarette, by the way, and it was just a happenstance that the young girl did this pose and she snapped it. There's nothing weird or anything strange going on here. This is just a very young girl for a moment there looking very worldly with her candy cigarette. It's an amazing photograph. Look at where she's caught her in the road. You see the road? A road leading right back up into her bright blonde hair up against the dark part of the picture. This young lady looking away, and then we have this gentleman up in the air back here, obviously on a ladder of some sort, but way up in the air. It just everything is just so strange, and yet it's a totally soothing picture. Here's a nice little shot of I believe these are her daughters. Just little portraits like this. Young women in the South. The girls, two girls two tree trunks. Really, really kind of a lot going on in this picture. It looks very simple, but it's not. Notice the light falling behind the trees, the dappled light back here on whatever's going on back here, a wall or whatever. We've got these bricks running down here. You see that? Bricks coming down inside the tree, or on the back side of the tree, or maybe it's two trees with a brick wall on the other side. But whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. The two girls are looking right at the camera. They're not smiling. It's not a kind of a smiling shot. It's just a moment in time. Come right up into the dark part of the shadow, where the shadow comes around like this. Why it's doing that, I don't know. Sorry, crazy mouse. But look how she's posed him right here. Now this is a posed shot. He's waiting for her to snap the picture. And of course, the 8x10 just instantly drops out of focus back behind him. So we have this natural occurring shadow, him breaking out into the brightness of the water, his dark hair perfectly standing out from the background, from the water, so well. This is just one of those like timeless portraits. It's just amazing. I love this shot. I love it because the pose is so relaxed. It's so natural. We got the idea that it's old from the barnwood. We've got old rock. We've got leaves. This old table, and this young woman sitting here with her riding boots on, or her mud boots or something. And just look how her arm and knee frame her face. Isn't that amazing? Just right up through here. Just that. It's just really tasty. I love it. And the fact that it looks like a grab shot, even though it's a large format photograph, it just adds to the punch of it. It's just a kind of a portrait that, if I made that portrait, I'd be like super thrilled. A couple of young girls playing house or whatever, old truck, and it's just a moment. It's almost like a snapshot in time, just a moment maybe of your kids or something, but with just a little bit more finesse, bringing the old truck here. The dog, I love the dog, obviously getting up and stretching, but looking a little menacing over there. And look at the body language of this young lady. She's curving down from the head, and she goes back out with the elbows and then back down to the legs, and the other little girl standing perfectly at attention, getting attention from her big sister. Looks like she's applying makeup. Just perfect, perfect little portrait. They're standing right in the little slice of sun. Stuff in the shade. Can you see how the picture would be different if the two subjects were standing behind the truck? Can you see that? It probably wouldn't even work. They'd be in the shade, the truck's in the shade, and then they'd have this great big triangle of light out there. I don't know, could be cool, maybe not, but this is what I love. This young lady is right on the break of the shadow. Do you see the highlight running all the way down her dress there? Right on the break of the shadow. It's beautiful. I keep talking about great portraits, and I just love this portrait. Grandmother, daughter, granddaughter. 3 generations right here, all with their swimming caps on, and just a terrific photograph. Just terrific. We just got a glimpse of this one. I love this as well. Right under the tree is in focus, the young lady is in focus, and then everything just drops out back there, and it just becomes a very powerful, unique portrait. She looks so grown up here in the face, but look at her feet. She's just playing with her toes down here, looking very sophisticated up here. Just a lovely photograph. Why is this doing it? Damn. Sometimes I just want to scream. One last shot here. This young man with the water behind him, or whatever that is back there. Really makes the shot work. And of course, the shallow depth of field is amazing. This is Sally working with the big camera. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about a big camera. That's the big camera right there. big 8x10, hard to move around camera, and she's got it on the same tripod that I own. And I thought that was cool. It's a big Bogan tripod from the early 80s, or mid 80s. I don't know, early 80s. Big old Bogan tripod. Mine's right over there in the closet, so. All right, Sally Mann, what makes this photo great? Well, a great eye, great technique, and a way of working with people that gives us maybe a little more glimpse into the nature of the people themselves. Or she creates a new reality like this and like this for us to make our own story around. Absolutely stunning. Sally Mann, there's links in the description below. Most of her books, I believe, are still available. So enjoy. Go buy a book. You'll love Sally Mann's work.